We're talking free agent pickups and two-start starters for the week of June 13th, 2022, here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Clay Link here with FSWA Hall of Famer Todd Zola. Glad to have you with us wherever you are or however you're listening. Got quite a bit to get into, but how are you today, Todd, on this Friday afternoon?
Doing well. This is a rare 15-game main slate for DFS. There's no Wrigley Field game. There's no 6:30 or 6:40 Eastern game. So big slate tonight for DFS, and we have to dig in.
Yeah, it's one of those rare full slates at night, and yeah, it's crazy that we're already into mid-June, and we're gonna keep helping you try to win that fantasy baseball championship on the show.
We just passed the 1/3 poll.
That's not what it actually is, right? That's
No. I'm being a wise guy.
Yeah.
That's
one of your pet peeves.
We've just passed the 1/3 point of the season, though. If you figure we started on April 7th, it's now June 10th. And as you said in the opening, 2022. So good thing I didn't have next year's two-start pitchers up. I'm glad we got this year's.
I'm glad I specified.
Yeah, no, and June 13th was my mom's birthday. So it's a
cool.
Special. How old would she have been? Too old. Well, she passed far too young, but anyway, so I'll think about that on my own time.
So did mine. Passed way too young, man. It's a shame, but it is going to be Gabriel Moreno weekend. I don't know if he got the call yet today, but he's going to be joining the big club this weekend, if not today. So Danny Jansen out, and he was the top pickup, Gabriel Moreno, in our stake league last night. $14 for only a one-catcher league. I mean, seems a little steep, but there is a window here for Gabriel Moreno to play.
Is there? I guess there is. I mean, I don't know that Alejandro Kirk was already getting a lot of playing time.
A lot of DH, though.
Right. Yeah. That's the point. I don't know they'll give him that much more. And Kirk's just really not that great behind the plate. But I don't think Moreno is either, really, is he? I don't think he's, a gazelle. Well, you don't really gazelle behind the plate. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But, let's take a lesson from Adley Rutschman. It takes a while for catchers to get it together. So I don't know if I would have, in a one-catcher league, give me Christian Betancourt, right? Give me William Contreras of Atlanta, who's playing some outfield and DH over Moreno. I like Moreno long-term, but I don't know if I would have invested in a one-catcher league.
I hear you. He's had a really good average at AAA, but was only slugging around 400, so not a guarantee to be a big needle mover right off the jump. Graham Ashcraft also picked up last night for 7. I like Ashcraft, but I'm kind of worried now about how the Reds starting pitchers will fare with Tyler Stevenson out again. So Stevenson's out like 4 to 6 weeks.
Well,
broken thumb, and it sucks.
His defense wasn't anything to write. I mean, it became passable, right? I don't think, unless you watch more games than I do, unless he's really improved. It became
he's not bad back there, but I also think his game calling is good, and just his handling of the pitching staff.
Okay, yeah, I don't watch the. Sorry, bud, but I don't watch the games long enough to be able to home in on that.
I don't watch the Reds even as a non-fan.
Yeah, I just don't have a lot of. Now that I have now that I'm doing the observations type piece, I'll have to try to focus in on them. And they play a lot of the 6:30, 6:40 games, don't they? I think.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, so that gives me like 45 minutes of, without flipping too much to focus on Tyler Mahle or Castillo or whoever. So I will be getting more Reds in on Monday viewing when they do play the earlier, the fan-friendly 6:30 check local listings start. So I'll get to see a little more. Who now is catching for the Reds?
And they do not have a lot of depth, so I think it's maybe Aramis Garcia. Let me double check who they.
Yeah, I've updated my pitching Everybody who's come in for the week. I did the pitching first this week, so I could, for the 2 starts. And of course, the week I did pitching first, I didn't have to add anybody for the 2-start grid. Everybody was already in my database. So, yeah. So So you said Ramos Garcia.
Ramos Garcia. Then they brought up Chris Oakey.
Isn't Chris Oakey? Yeah, isn't he a character at Wally World? To the okie dokie.
Sounds right.
To the okie dokie. Wasn't that what Eddie Murphy had to do when the kid punched him or whatever? Anyway, yeah, my memory. I remember things like that, and I don't know what I had for dinner last night. But anyway.
But yeah, Ramos Garcia, I guess, will now be taking over. But it is a big blow, I think, for the Reds, and maybe it could adversely affect their pitching staff. We'll see. I picked up Jack Sawinski for 6. James has been kind of leading this bandwagon, and I'm on board now. I jumped on board and got Sawinski for 6 in this league, then for 7 in Derek Van Riper's Maki league. So it is 8th homer last night, Jack Sawinski.
Yeah, it's beginning. Yeah, it's time to start paying attention. Easily, and Pittsburgh has been searching for outfielders, right? I mean, they just brought up Swaggerty too, but I don't think Swaggerty will get the playing time that Sawinski is. Mm-hmm. Jared Oliva was released earlier. I mean, he wasn't anything to write home about, but cross him off the list of potential. There's some tell that if they can get blown away, they'll trade Brian Reynolds, which why? Because he still has 2 or 3 years of control. He plays center. He's good. But I guess if you're blown away, you make that deal. Cal Mitchell was just brought up, but so when Ben Gamble comes back, will Sawinski continue to play? I think if he continues to hit, he'll continue to play.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity on that team, and a lefty bat with quite a few mediocre right-handed pitchers in that division. So should have the platoon edge more often than not. And yeah, I've decided that because I have a big cushion and stolen bases, I decided I needed to get Jorge Mateo out of my lineup. So I'll be swapping in Sawinski for Mateo.
There you go.
And I'm hoping he can provide a little bit more across the board than just in the one category like Mateo was doing. Luis Garcia was still out there for the Nats. Did you get him anywhere last weekend?
I believe I did. No, where I got him was in a cut line, and I was very happy about that. Yeah, I like Luis Garcia. Mm-hmm. I don't like his defense. He's got the yips a little bit throwing the ball, but towards the end of last year, his exit velocities were very impressive. So I kind of have him on my radar. Now, his call up is a pain in the butt for those of us that use some kind of spreadsheet method for bringing in prices for DFS, because you really can't use IDs because the DraftKings and FanDuels have, they don't keep it the same. But so other than adding about 13 seconds to my day by having to make sure I've got the right Garcia brought into my database, it's fine.
Yeah, if somebody's so spreadsheet driven, I imagine Luis Garcia kind of presents a problem for you.
4 of them.
Yeah.
There's the relief pitcher, there's the starter, there's the one from Philadelphia that hasn't been called up. The one that's really frustrating, like people need to know this. For some reason, DraftKings continues to price Max Muncie of Oakland. So,
he hasn't even come close to the big leagues.
Yeah. So whenever I saw it, it's like Max Muncie 2,000. Man, wait a minute, wrong Muncie. So I've got some coding in there now to take care of that. But anyway,
looks like Muncie, the big league Max Muncie, got the chip on his shoulder back yesterday.
Little bit.
Tony La Russa pulling a 2-strike intentional walk on Turner, and Max Muncie wasn't too happy with that move, so he made him pay.
Yeah,
fun to watch.
It's too bad I'm not writing my next observations till Monday, or that would have been part of it. But that was bizarre, right? It was. I mean, they pitched to Turner. Was it a wild pitch or a pass ball? Opened up first base, and then La Russa decided to walk him on a 1-2 count to pitch to Muncie. So, it's all over Twitter. The numbers and this and that. If at 1 and 2. Don't you at least try to make them fish if you want to walk them? But maybe you just don't trust your pitcher or your catcher to block balls in the dirt or whatever. So it was Joe Madden-esque out of Tony La Russa. Maybe the two of them should just, retire and try to start a new league somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, go start and go live on an island together and get out of our collective consciousness. Sorry to say, but yeah, that was a weird situation. And yeah, but I have Max Muncie in a few leagues, and it was just a brutal start. But it seems like, well, that was at least a good sign. Maybe he's he's back healthy again. He'll be all right.
He's been. It's been kind of a, trying to the right way to put it. I mean, an evaluation roller coaster, right? Mm-hmm. In that we weren't sure when he was going to be back, when he was going to debut, so he fell down lists. And then it kind of became apparent, when he was going to come back, and he rose up the lists, and then he stunk. So we're dropping him. It's just kind of weird how we're treating Max Muncie, and he's still not playing great, but he's still better in points in OBP leagues. And we keep saying, you need the reserve spots, but a guy at first and second with his potential, I don't want to get rid of him just because.
I hear you, man. I hear you. So yeah, Luis Garcia was a $4 pickup, by the way. And then Jose Miranda I got too with Jack Sawinski. Miranda's getting hot, so I figured see what he can do for me over the next week or so. I did drop Danny Jansen there. This is a one catcher league, but I couldn't wait that out. I decided so.
So who you got a catcher now?
Alejandro Kirk.
That'll work.
So I had Jansen picked up actually to fill one of my 2 UT spots, but because I felt like he cleared that bar, but he's been so good over the past year or so.
I've been using William Contreras at DH in one of my, I think it's one of my, maybe it's a DC. I don't remember. No, it can't be a DC because they wouldn't have drafted him in a DC. But in one of maybe my online auction, it worked out that he was my best UT for the, keeping. I don't want to drop him because if a catcher goes down, you get a nice replacement. So anyway.
Yeah. Actually, in one league where I just lost Jansen, I had, I rarely do it, but I had stashed a third catcher because Jansen was hurt earlier this year, obviously. And there's IL in that league, so my bench isn't quite as, taxed, but Jonah Heim is my third catcher in a 15-teamer. So I'm pretty pumped to be able to plug in a guy like Heim for Jansen in the meantime. But
let's say
one of those rare cases where carrying 3 catchers actually worked out.
Let's say hypothetically you've got Yasmani Grandal in a 15-teamer. Are you dropping him?
James and I were talking. He's maybe the biggest net negative for fantasy so far this year. I don't think I'm dropping him just because, I feel I'm stubborn just as a person. And I feel like I'd want to recoup some of that value. Like I couldn't cut bait now and take such a massive loss.
He had such a strong second half last year. So that's part of the, that's part of the algebra too. In the replacements, you just mentioned a couple names, but in general, unless you're willing to pay up, the replacements aren't very good. You're not going to get much better than what he's giving now. So I'm kind of with you in that I don't want to drop him. That what he did last year in the second half was just silly. I wrote about him in the Z files, I believe, that just got posted earlier. And I was just kind of curious. That's kind of what I said was I'll reserve him if I can pick up a catcher that I trust in the interim, but I can't drop him.
By the way, you've alluded to it a couple times, but you are going to be, or I think you may have already started that observations column for the site. So even more articles on your plate. Thanks for offering to take that on. But yeah, we're all excited to see your takeaways from a given.
It'll be posted on Monday afternoon and Thursday afternoon, covering games that I've seen in the past couple of days. Some Twitter, we follow cool people, and once in a while they post something interesting, and I'll, can trigger a note or two, and then at the end of it, I call the box score blitz. If I don't happen to see a game, I go through the box scores, and Eric Halterman, who my co-host on Saturdays is, as you know, stepping up and doing more editing and some more backstage, back end work, getting our articles, behind the scenes, prettying them up even more than they are now to get more eyeballs. So I'm happy to be working with Eric a little bit more behind the scenes. And it's fun. I enjoyed reading Jeff's pieces. Jeff was, he may still continue to, he has the time to do the observations on his own. It's a separate series, but I thought it was kind of cool. And as you know, in a month, we will both be losing a voice on a spot on Sirius XM. So it just gives me things I would maybe talk about on Sirius. It gives me another outlet to get the stuff out there.
Yeah, fantasy football keeps the lights on. I get it. So they
have
to make that move. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like we just won't have
I'm not
as much opportunity to talk in a month or so.
Yeah, and I got stuff I want to say. I got stuff I yeah. No. It's just.
But your stuff is worthwhile. What you have to say is
fun.
worthwhile.
It's fun. So anyway.
By the way, Bryson Stott picked up for 3. I kind of like that pickup.
Yeah, I do.
Gene Segura. Tough break for him. Is he a drop for you, Gene Segura? I wasn't able to pull myself to do it last weekend.
Well, we say this a lot. Maybe we need to come up a term for this. I'm not. You know what? I'm gonna say with Segura I am. We don't know when he's coming back, and it may only be for a month, if that.
Yeah.
So true. What I was
looking at up to 3 months.
Yeah. No, and who knows? When he does come back, what it will be. What I was going to say was there's some guys that I only will drop if I absolutely need the spot. He's not one. I want this. I need. I mean, I can't. He's not. He's good, but he's not good enough to wait and maybe get 4 weeks out of him. Mm-hmm. So I would drop Segura. I'd rather stash Grandal than stash Segura. I'm trying to think of somebody. Mitch Haniger is borderline for me. Although at this point, he is somebody that I would not drop unless I had to. He's, especially because every week we get closer to his return, knock on wood. So yeah, I would not drop Haniger unless, man, I need a middle infielder and I have no one else to drop. All right, I'll drop Haniger.
Mike Minor, by the way, picked up for 3. Not sure I really understand that one. Maybe you could ask Halterman about Mike Minor. Not to throw him under the bus. Eric's a really good player, but I just don't see it with Minor because he's just eating innings, and they're going to leave him out there to wear it sometimes when he doesn't have it. So.
There is that. I don't know if he has a 2-start based on your staggered schedule this week. Mm-hmm. But to me, he's a streamer, a matchup guy, and I'd like to see his matchups in your league for the next week to see, to make more of a judgment. I've always been a Mike Minor apologist, if you will. I don't like him in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the key. But I think he falls into the streaming realm.
Yeah, he does line up for 2 in a normal week next week, so we'll be grading him shortly.
Okay, all right.
Josh Winder for 3, Jake Odorizzi for 2, Odubel Herrera for 2, Nick Cenzatel for $1, Colin Poche maybe has a window to close. He got picked up for $1. James stashed Corbin Carroll for $1, his number 1 prospect. Maybe he'll be the next guy to make the leap from AA.
Cenzatel, you're Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Isn't he he's healthy. To me, I kind of like that pickup for $1.
Maybe. I'm kind of out until he shows me until he can play in 100 games and
but
be
for
a little
$1
bit above average.
I guess for $1, I don't know the reserve situation, but for $1, I think based upon some of these other names that I've heard, I think that's a nice little sneak. Yeah.
Ramon Urias, Jared Kelnick, and then Alex Kirilloff to cap off the pickups from Stake League last night.
Kind of a busy week. Good.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped about Sawinski and Miranda. Hopefully they can give me a little shot in the arm. And anything else on your mind before we get into 2-start starters, Todd?
The only news I'm just going through it really quickly kind of caught my eye with Gavin Sheets was sent down. He's not doing the job. So I'm trying to figure, quickly trying to just see whose playing time that helps. Does that solidify Jake Berger? Does that solidify Andrew Vaughn? Or, is it just kind of the same old? AJ Pollock, maybe, who's been losing playing time. Maybe he's the beneficiary.
I could see it. Maybe he gets back into being something.
Yeah.
I did not expect AJ Pollock to find the cliff and fall off it.
No, I did not either. But so how much has Sheets been playing? He's been playing fairly, a little bit less lately, but yeah. So yeah, I think all right. So he's been playing, and he's also been getting pinch hit for. So yeah, I think what one needs to do if they're interested is go back and check the White Sox lineup for the past couple the past week, and we have that on the site to get a feel for who may be playing more.
I'm hoping Eloy gets back pretty soon. I heard he is having some normal leg tightness during his rehab, but I'm really hoping for TGFBI. I got inside the top 50 overall. I'm hoping to get Eloy back there. But
yeah, I'm kind of borderline there. I've been hovering right around 50 myself. So yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, hoping Eloy can come back and do some damage. We'll get to the 2-start pitchers for next week here momentarily, but let's first take a quick break to hear a word from our Blue Wire sponsors. All right, we are back on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Clay Link here with Todd Zola, and we are going to get into next week's 2-start pitchers. These are tentative, of course, and check back closer to Sunday before your fab to get a better idea of projections for next week. Merrill Kelly versus Cincinnati versus Minnesota. He's been pretty darn good. Not a 5 for me, but he actually gets to oppose Mike Minor, who we were just talking about in his first start. And yeah, I think maybe Merrill Kelly's a 4. Let me give him a 4.
Throwing strikes, right? He's kind of got that bulldog attitude. He's throwing strikes. I got him listed in the 3 range, but I wouldn't be surprised because he's a little inconsistent, but they're both at home. Yeah, I got to look at that. That's a 4.
Yeah, the Reds without Stevenson, that's looking like a pretty nice matchup for him at home, of course. So yeah, I'll give Kelly a 4. And then Ian Anderson for the Atlanta Braves. He's, he had a few ugly outings, and yeah, really just he's so inconsistent. It's pretty frustrating. He's got a 1.44 WHIP over his last 40 1/3 innings, and for some reason I had it in my head that he was getting on track, but it's really been wildly inconsistent, Ian Anderson. So his matchups are at Washington, at the Cubs. A 3, it feels high off the tongue, but I think if I drafted Ian Anderson, I'm starting him here.
Yeah, I got him in the 5 range, which feels low. So maybe if we average it out,
5 range.
I'm sorry, the 1 range.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking backwards.
If that feels low, then
he's in the bottom 5th percent.
I got you.
So I'm gonna go 4. I'm gonna go 4.
You mean 2 or?
I'm gonna go 2. I'm thinking Bass backwards today. Yeah. The rank I go 1 to 100.
Yeah.
So
understandable.
81 to 100 is a 1.
Be forgiven.
So yeah, everything's backwards. So I'm gonna go 2, and just figure out why he's in the 1 range. Maybe I'm shorting him some innings or something.
Well, he hasn't been very good, so I get where you're coming from.
Well, there is that, and part of my algorithm is what you've done lately. So
Kyle Bradish is at Toronto, then versus Tampa Bay. It looks like Jordan Lyles, I guess, too, getting a couple starts as well. Can't start either of these guys. I'm going 0 for both.
Yep. I don't have to worry about where they rank. Yeah, we're going 0s.
And for Boston, before we get into their 2-start starter for next week, did you see that news today about Chris Sale maybe coming back in a relief role? That
had been floated out previously.
Yeah,
but it was I don't want to use the word unreliable source. But it wasn't unconfirmed source. So yeah, now this is at a point I wrote about this in the Todd's takes. The Red Sox finally have a little bit of stability now with Tanner Houck at the back end, John Schreiber, and Matt Strahm. So it'd be interesting what do you Sale in a multi-inning capacity, or that's what I'd be curious about. Because right now their starters are actually giving him length.
Yeah, it's not like they are super desperate in that rotation right now.
But I guess the thought process is if he's going to throw 1 and 2 inning stints in the minors in rehab, why not use those bullets at the major league level?
Yeah, it could help you now while he's stretching back out on the job.
Maybe. Yeah, we'll see.
One other question on this team before we get into it. I saw Matt Strahm got a couple saves now, and I actually just acquired Tanner Houck in another league. I don't know if he's in the mix to close necessarily, but I just like him as an arm. Do you have a guess on who's going to eventually get into that closer role? John Schreiber, maybe?
I think it's going to remain a matchup committee. And I think that Tanner Houck will pick up I think the LS Core will play the true matchups. I think Houck's going to get 5 or 6 of pitching the 8th and the 9th. Strom,
kind of like the old school Hader roles, or like Garrett Whitlock last year.
Little bit. I don't know if this is just my guess. Strom pitched 2 days in a row. Now Houck had gone 2 innings the game that Strom got the first save, so would be unavailable. There hasn't been a time yet where they both are on, they're both rested and there's a save op to know, is it Strom or is it Houck? So I think Houck is still best in that bring him in where it's most important. If he gets the final 2 outs of an inning, he can start he can go the next inning too. So, but that's going to happen a few times in the 9th. That's why I say that he's going to get 5 or 6 saves. But I had maybe the best way to put it is updated the saves projections for the Red Sox. I think maybe even last night, and I think I gave Strom 12 and Houck 6. So that's kind of where and that's just one man's opinion.
Yeah, I hear you.
So
it doesn't sound like Schreiber's really in that mix for you, but I picked him up because the numbers are so good, and I saw him on Pitching Ninja the other day with some of his two-steamers, and
you never know. I mean,
the service numbers are great, but you never know if he's going to get into that.
If it's a matchup scenario, there'll be a time where he's needed.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised at all. Red Sox have played an inordinate number of close games lately. They're doing much better in them than they did early in the season there. But so if all I want is saves, it's Strom, but there's other guys that are going to get more. But I love Houck's arm.
I acquired Houck in the stake league for Jorge Mateo, so I actually had a big cushion first in steals by a good margin. So
nice.
It's time to get rid of Mateo, and I was pretty happy to get an arm like Houck, arm of that quality for Jorge Mateo. But back to the Red Sox starters, finally getting around to Nathan Evaldi. I've got him as a 4. Matchups are pretty nice versus Oakland versus St. Louis. I assume you're close to that, if not right on 4.
I mean, right now he's my number 2 ranked guy, but wow. I mean, it's preliminary. I got to do some sure. Finagling, but no, he's a 5 for me.
Okay, nice. Okay,
yeah, he's a 5.
Down as a 5. I will include these with the show notes, by the way. Actually, when I traded Jorge Mateo, the initial offer was Kyle Hendricks for Jorge Mateo, and I just said,
how fast did you hit the reject button?
Well, he said he'd also, he'd do Houck if I'd prefer that route. I was like, I'd much prefer that route.
You like I don't drink, so it's not like we have to sober up before we hit the button to make sure we don't hit the wrong button.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
yeah.
So I got Hendricks as a 0 versus San Diego versus Atlanta. Just can't trust this guy anymore, so I'm going to go 0.
Yeah, you know what? I finally have him ranked in the 0 range. So I'm gonna, even though they're both at home, I'm gonna agree.
Any reason to roll the dice on Justin Steele? That seems like an unnecessary gamble to me, anyway.
I
know this. You kind of like the skills. The skills haven't been that bad, but
better matchups. Perhaps I think he's in the matchup range, and these just both happen to be tough matchups.
I'm gonna give Mike Minor 0. Can't do it.
All right. This one I need to search just because I'm curious because it may be a residual. No, you know what? I got him at 113. So we're gonna match you to 0.
At Arizona versus Milwaukee for Minor, and again they brought him in to eat innings, and when things aren't going well, they're not gonna say, okay, let's tax the bullpen. They brought him in so that they can save the bullpen every 5 days.
There's going to be a week where he's got the Cubs and he's got the Pirates, but
maybe.
you're gonna have to fab him. I don't think you want to wait for that week.
Here's an interesting call that fantasy managers are going to have to make this week. Shane Bieber at Colorado at the Dodgers. Man, that's first starting at Coors, then facing one of the juggernaut offenses in baseball in the Dodgers. So I mean, he's just so hard to grade here because I think usually you'd want to start him, but I'm going to go 3.
He's in my 3 range now. Bieber, and I wrote about this in the observations piece. I wanted to watch him because he's an enigma for me. Number scouting, he's throwing with less velocity, but the swinging strike, things are there. So I want to, I could tell in watching 3 or 4 innings, but I wanted to get in eyeballs and, is he making adjustments? What's he doing? Of course, it's raining his entire game. So you really want to, pass judgment on a game in the rain, even though he pitched pretty well, got ripped off of a win because they called it after 4 2/3. And then who's the big Eli Morgan came in, shut the door and got the win. But I'm with you in that it's a 3, but wow. I mean, I'm not watching those games. If I have
holding your breath.
Well, I am watching them because I'm an observer and I want to watch Bieber pitch just to get a feel. But I don't have him anywhere. But it's part of my job is to rank him. I'm not. It's not a confident 3 though.
Yeah, watch with one eye open, I guess. But before we get on to more of these 2-start starters, I just want to pause briefly because we have quite a bit of conversation in the chat. We appreciate you guys coming through to hang out, and I just thought we'd power through a couple of these real quick. Dusty said, asks, trade Martin Perez for Bobby Witt Jr. and Wilson Contreras. He's been having to stream catchers. Yeah, I mean, I would jump all over that. You're selling high on Martin Perez. That's a great return. Thanks for the kind words about the show, Dusty.
And then look for a better league.
Yeah, maybe step up to that. Get called up to the next level of competition.
I'm being a wise guy, but that's clearly
a nice trade for you. Yeah, Dusty, if you can
for
still swing that.
I mean, that should be like Bobby Witt for Perez and Contreras, shouldn't it?
Yeah, like it should. This is a pretty lopsided.
Or Contreras for Bobby Witt and Perez. Yeah.
Congrats on having the one Martin Perez believer in the world in your league.
I'm more of a believer because I think that he's benefiting by the ball. So I think his strikeout rate, when things settle, won't be as bad as it's been. But walks and strikeouts are still there's some give back. But anyway.
Disco Dave wanted to know how important is CSW? And we just had a good article from Corbin Young looking at CSW by pitch. Our buddy Alex Fast created the stat. Alex Fast from MLB.com and Pitcher List. So I don't know how important it is necessarily, but it's a nice little tool to add to the toolbox. CSW called strikes plus whiffs.
I mean, it has to look in the aggregate. It improves swinging strike a bit. I mean, what I'm finding, and I don't know if Alex agrees or disagrees, and this is true in any stat. On a player-by-player basis, it may not be as telling, but in the aggregate, it improves the correlation between swinging, a metric and strikeout percent. So it does depend on the pitcher and why the called strikes are there. I do look at it, for a guy like Bieber, I'm curious if there's a difference in his number of called strikes because he could be in the middle of a transition. And one of the ways, he's not getting he's not getting swings and misses with his stuff anymore. Maybe he's increasing the number of strikes by, fooling people. So it has a place. If you like swinging strike as a metric, it makes it a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a stat that's become popularized in recent years, and it's on Fangraphs now, and I think it's on Baseball Savant too. So shout out to Alex Fast.
And you hear it talked about on some broadcasts. So yeah.
Shout out to Alex Fast on creating a useful stat that we can
Emmy award-winning Alex Fast.
Yeah, that guy's a stud, man. Love Alex Fast. Then David asked, any interest in Junis tonight? I actually have him in one league where we have daily moves. And I'm sitting him for this matchup against the Dodgers. So
Dodgers?
Yeah.
No.
I think that's against the Dodgers. Let me double check. I like Junis and kind of a sneaky little guy to stash, but
right,
if you can pick and choose, it is against the Dodgers.
I mean, maybe as a salary saver in DFS if you're a GPP player, but that's just off the cuff without really looking. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a GPP player. So maybe he doesn't even fit that mold, but no. The Dodgers, even though they're not cracking on all cylinders, they're still too scary. We're at the point. I know you agree because you were at that point a month ago. We do have to be a little more judicious with our streamers at this point.
Yeah, I didn't know the environment early on, so I was playing a little safe, but maybe I played a little too safe early on. But You don't know when games start. Alex Wood, this guy says, is on his waiver wire, and he's going to be a guy we grade here shortly. If he's all out there, I wouldn't use like a super high priority if that's how your waivers work. But versus Casey at Pitt, that's a pretty nice two-step for Wood. So
if he's available, yeah, he's an all. He's, I mean, is that a 4 if we're grading this week?
Yeah, I mean, we'll get
to it.
But
yeah, no, I pick him up because to me, you're starting him at home every time, so you're starting him at least half the starts, and you're avoiding Coors Field, and I don't know you're avoiding much else.
I think I mentioned Colin Poche was picked up with the Stake League group, and Andrew Kitcher's now on the IL. Any interest in that situation, or are you just the headache that you're hands off with?
I picked up Poche. I mean, I got Kittredge everywhere. Yeah. I have him in NL only leagues. So, I mean, and I'm actually kind of, the fact he's out is a bummer, but they're doing some surgery to remove some bone spurs, some loose bodies. So that's kind of comforting in that we know what it is. We got a feel for when he'll be back, as opposed to, does this mean Tommy John or anything like that? So from that point of view, and I have a lot of draft champions, so it's not a matter of am I holding them, I have to hold them. But I had Poche previously and dropped him in a couple places, but not everywhere. So I guess I'm interested, but it is as my third float-in closer when I need when my sixth starter isn't a good spot, right? It's not my second closer. Yeah.
I hear you there. It's kind of like just, I mean, there's probably going to be somebody else, like Brooks Raley was earlier this year. Just somebody else who in a week or two.
Adam got the first save, right?
Jason Adam, who's on my S list now.
I don't believe it'll be Nick Anderson.
No, I don't think so either. But back to the 2-star pitchers. Let's get back to these. Really appreciate all the comments in the chat.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys having some back and forth with us and hanging out. Antonio Cenzatel is going to be a 0-2 home start, so that's a pretty easy one.
Yep.
What about Johnny Cueto at Detroit, at Houston? Scary in the matchups. Well, the Detroit one is a nice one, but the at Houston is scary. I think I'm going to give Johnny C like a 2.
I'm going to go with a 1 just because he's cagey enough to minimize damage against Houston.
You said a 1?
Yeah, I'm going with a 1. I'm not. I don't know how deep he's got the job now because, who's sent down or hurt again?
DFA'd Keuchel.
That was it. They DFA'd Keuchel. Yeah.
And he signed with somebody I saw.
Who was it?
Yeah, who was that? He brought.
It wasn't
a sign of desperation.
It wasn't San Francisco. It was kind of
Arizona.
And he was it Brent Strom? He's reunited with.
Oh yeah.
That's what it is. But anyway,
so yeah, I'm gonna go.
I'm gonna go
2 on Cueto, but I got you as a 1. Alex Faedo's been pitching really well. I still want to see a little bit more, but versus White Sox. And he's a righty, Faedo, so White Sox don't scare me as much. And then versus Texas, I expect to have Faedo on a couple lists this weekend. I think I'm going to give him a 2.
Yep, 2. I agree, 2.
Yeah. And then Eduardo Rodriguez, Erod, is this going to be his first start back, I believe? He hasn't pitched since
unless it's over the weekend.
No, he pitched Thursday for Toledo, so
okay,
that will be his first start back. He threw 4 scoreless.
If he's got 2, he's got 2, so he can't have pitched over the weekend, right?
Well, yeah, that's true, but I just wasn't sure if he'd returned to make a start.
Right.
But no, he pitched yesterday at AAA and went 4 innings. I don't know if he's going to be able to go 5, but you'd think, if he's efficient, he probably could. Mentioned the White Sox hit lefties pretty well, so I think I'm going to give him a 2, but I actually think if I had him measured up, I'd have him behind Faedo, I think, actually.
Yeah, I got this weird look on my face just because I don't like to sit guys when they first come back. And these are kind of nice matchups, the White Sox versus lefties notwithstanding. I have him as a 3, but I'm going to go 2 because I think I need to temper the innings for the first start.
Pretty exciting 2-step for Christian Javier at Texas versus Washington. pitched pretty well. I think. Did he have a little bit of a give back outing recently? What was it?
He did.
He did have a 5 earned run outing.
Yeah, he looked good through 3 or something like that, and then it was a matchup against another good pitcher, if I believe, may have been Gilbert. I don't remember.
But yeah, I think I'm going to give him at Texas versus the White Sox. I think a 3, but maybe pushing a 4.
I'm going to go 4.
Yeah, okay. I do like what I've seen, but not quite there yet myself. All right, Brady Singer at San Francisco, at Oakland. And this KC team is a joke. I know I've been beating this drum, but I want to see breakfast up Vinny Pasquantino. But really, it's the pitching is their main problem, more so than the offense. It's the pitching, and I don't trust Singer or really anybody in this rotation. So I'm going to give Singer a 1 because he's got a couple spacious parks on the slate. But that's as high as I can go.
I have him ranked a lot higher than that, but I'm going to say 3, and I'm going to take a look to see why I have him ranked so darn high. I mean, he's in the 2 range.
They can't develop pitching there.
He's in the 4 range on my chart, but I'm going to go 3. I don't. Yeah,
those matchups are kind of nice, but I mean, San Francisco with all their platooning, they could get to him.
Yeah, no, it's not quite as effective as last season. Primarily, they got some injuries. Brendan Belt out, and they're not quite able to do Lamont Wade. They're not quite able to do what they did last year, but they're still effective.
What about Thor? He's going to be at the Dodgers, at Seattle. First half of that 2-step kind of puts some fear in your hearts. He did go 6 his last time out, bouncing back from a couple of kind of rough outings, but he did only strike out 3. Strikeouts just not there. Stuff it's not back to the same level. So I'm going to give him a 3. Like, I think Syndergaard, Christian Javier.
I like Javier a lot more. I'm going to give him a 3. Okay. Over under the amount of steals Julio Rodriguez gets. 2.5.
Yeah. Next Sunday. Yeah.
You know what? It's Sunday. They'll give him the day off.
Oh,
no, I hope not.
How many of the Dodgers? How many is Trey Turner going to steal on Tuesday?
Yeah. Well, and Mookie. There's a good point.
Mookie.
Yeah. They're going to run, and I'm not going to say that I could steal off of Syndergaard because I don't think I'd actually make it to second base in time, but I'll bet you could.
I think I'd probably fall before I got there. So yeah, I'm going to give Thor 3. Was that where you were at too?
Yeah, I'm at 3, but it's not a very confident one because I don't like what I'm not. He does. I haven't seen enough other stuff so that he can work effectively with lesser velocity. I just don't see another pitch right now, so we'll see.
Dodgers got 2 off days, so they don't have anybody. But man, Tony Gonsolin and Tyler Anderson. I know Anderson kind of hit the skids a little bit against the White Sox, but those two both 7-0. Pretty amazing that they've picked up the slack in that rotation, and maybe they get Kershaw back. And then for Miami, Sandy Alcantara has been, I think, the number 1 fantasy pitcher to date without a big jump in Ks, which kind of surprised me. But he's locked in as a 5 regardless.
He's at the top of my preliminary rankings.
Yeah, I was running the earned auction values after his 9 innings the other day, and he was number 1 on the pitcher side.
Yeah.
Adrian Hauser at the Mets, at Cincinnati. At the Mets isn't such a bad matchup, but at Cincinnati isn't so great, even with that team not being so good. But I think I'm going to give Hauser a 1, a complimentary 1. I don't really like him, but
I'm in the 2-3 range. Both away. I'm gonna go 3, but it may drop to a 2 when I actually post them.
I'm gonna upgrade mine to a 2.
All right.
One felt low coming off the tongue, so I'll bump him up. Chris Archer, I think he beat Nestor Cortez the other day. Kind of irked me, but good for Chris Archer. At Seattle, at Arizona. Still not somebody I'm looking to pick up for fantasy, but he's held his own. I got to give him some credit. I thought he was toast. Again, at Seattle, at Arizona. I think he's kind of on that Hauser plane. Actually, no, not quite there with Hauser. So I'm going to give Archer a 1.
I'm going to give him a 1 as well.
David Peterson's got pretty good surface numbers, but I picked him up, of course, with that Washington matchup, and that was It didn't work out, so I couldn't time that right with David Peterson. But is it time to maybe get back in on David Peterson this week?
Milwaukee and Miami, yeah, both at home. At home, yeah. I have him in the 4 range, but I think he feels like more of a 3. I'm going to go 3.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Now, Nestor Cortez, again, he had one little setback, but still like among the best pitchers in the American League so far. So I'm going to give Nasty Nestor a 5.
He's in the top 5 of the prelims, so I'm going 5 as well. And I didn't put eyeball, if there was any, was there any sure thing? I mean, the Yankees have had Minnesota's number home and away for years. I know, who cares, 3 years ago, different teams, whatever. But yeah, the Twins gotten two games in a row, didn't they? They got Cole. Yeah, they crushed Garrett Cole.
Oh yeah, Cole gave up 5 homers. That was kind of crazy.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'll get Cortez as a 5 too.
Then Jared Koenig, I don't see any reason to consider him, so 0 for me. But
a cool story.
Yeah, good for him being up.
Independent leagues, hanging out. It's a really nice story, but I don't have any leagues that give points. Well, they give points for Trevor's story. They don't give points for stories, so I'm gonna go 0.
Yeah, no points for good stories. But yeah, he's at least a name to know that he's going to be making some starts, maybe stack against him on Tuesday if you believe in that Red Sox offense against the lefty Koenig. Aaron Nola, I'm going to give him a 5 because it's versus Miami at Washington. He hasn't really pitched like a 5, but I'm going to give him a 5. Then I'm going to give Zach Eflin a 3. He's been kind of sneaky good.
I think Nola's pitched like a 5. I mean,
he has. I mean, he's 4-4 with a 3.50 ERA. It's not.
Well, I'm not worried about. I don't think either of us are worried about the 4-4. He's been victimized by defense. The WHIP is .88.
Oh yeah, the WHIP is really low.
85 Ks in 74 innings. I think the ERA. If you're making the judgment on ERA and wins, and I know that that's not really what you're doing. No, my point.
These are the ones I'm looking at on our page. I could customize, by the way. You can't customize which stats are included on the projected starters.
Well, or you can weigh them. I'm an Aaron Nola fan, number one, and I'm a fan of when Ellen Adair posts her video after Ellen Nola does well, when she does her silly little dances. Mm-hmm. So I'm an Aaron Nola fan. I'm a fan of Ellen Adair's videos. So I'm going to give him a 5.
And what about Eflin? You agree on a 3, or is that a little high?
He's one of the.
Yeah, it's versus Miami at Washington.
Yeah, those are nice matchups. Eflin. Yeah, no, I'm gonna, because I'm almost thinking 4, but I think I have I'm gonna go 3.
Okay.
I'm gonna go 3.
Now, Mitch Keller, I can't trust him. Like, I'm trying to implement the Robbie Ray rule this year, where I never say never, but I'm not going to completely write Mitch Keller off and say I'll never pick the guy up, but I still need to see a little bit more. Need to see some stretch of prolonged success, and he just hasn't been able to sustain his success so far. So he's a 0 for me.
Yeah, I have him ranked between Packy Naughton and Jonathan Heasley, so that kind of tells you where he is for me.
Yeah, he continues to entice people every now and then with flashes, but
he's got velocity. He's got velocity. He's got to figure a second, third pitch out, or just get better control.
Yeah, it's been fool's gold every time to this point, but we'll see. Blake Snell at the Cubs, then at Colorado. Tough call on him. He's struggled, and what? 2? Is that high? It feels high. I guess I'll get 2.
All right, and I'm going to say 0, which may feel low. Oh. I think he's probably a 1, but I can't. 2 away games, and he's not guaranteed to go 5, and I'm not starting him.
Yeah, maybe I am too high. Probably that 2 is just based on the name value. But
yeah, and
I think if you were sitting on Snell for a while, are you going to have a better option than him on 2? Maybe because one of the starts is at Colorado, but.
Yeah.
I think I'll leave him as a 2 for now, but I got you as a 0. Chris Flexen, Logan Gilbert. Gilbert's a 5. flexing far from it. Versus Minnesota at the Angels, or versus Minnesota versus the Angels. So a couple home starts, but I can't give Chris flexing higher than a 1.
I can. I'm going to give him a 3. There's sneaky strikeouts there. Trout's hoping to be back tonight, let alone next week.
Yeah.
So, but still the lineup itself isn't all that great. And yeah, Gilbert's just very impressive to me. I like what I see about his composure and bouncing back from a rough inning and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they got a good one out in Seattle and Logan Gilbert. And good luck to Mina Kimes tonight, throwing out the first pitch, by the way.
Yeah.
I love Mina. So I got you down as a 3 on flex. And Alex Wood, just mentioned him briefly because there was a question about him in the chat, but I love these matchups for him versus Kansas City at Pitts. Not a 5-tier guy for me, but a 4 this week.
He's a 4 pitcher with 5 matchups.
Yeah.
I have it like number 16 and 1 to 20 is a 5, but I'm going to go 4. You know what? The heck with it. No, I mean, those matchups, KC and Pittsburgh, I'm going 5. I have to.
I hear you. And Webb, he's a 5 for me. Is he a 5 for you as well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then Miles Michaelis, I actually don't have Packy Naughton. Mine is a 2-start starter. Maybe.
I pulled it. I may have pulled it earlier than you.
Yeah. The latest looks like we have Michaelis only, but
okay.
Michaelis has been great. It'd be versus Pitt at Boston, so you don't love that second one, but 3, 4. I think I'm gonna go 3, but maybe 4.
I have him in the 4 range. This is complete narrative, anecdotal, whatever, but he's the kind of guy that I've watched beat the red, the smart pitcher, you can get the crafty pitcher often will be able to, beat the Red Sox. So I'm going 4, but I'm not loving it.
I hear you, man. Well, what about Klubot at the Yankees at Baltimore? He'll be tested early, but you love that at Baltimore, and he's pitched well. So I'm going to give Kluber a 4, 3, because the Yankees scare me.
I have him in the 0 range. I need to double check that. I may not have adjusted. I may need to do an adjustment. I'm going to go 2.
Okay.
Because he's not giving length, and Baltimore's offense is not terrible.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Mountcastle and Hayes have kind of broken out, so I hear what you're saying. Taylor Hearn, I know you've kind of liked, but with these matchups versus, at Detroit to end the week, but versus Houston, scary. I know, again, you kind of like what's under the hood with Hearn, but I need to see more, so I'm going to give him a 0.
I have him at 139 this week, so he's a 0.
Yeah. More so like you like the spec on what he could become in time. What about Dane Dunning? I think I'm going to give him a 0 too.
I'm going to give him a 1. I know Houston's tough, but I'm also a little bit impressed with, I think, was it Dunning that was facing Bieber in the rain? I don't remember at this point, but I'm going to go with a 2 with Dunning.
Alec Manoah is going to be a 5, right?
Yeah. I don't even have to control F that one.
Man, I love Manoah. That guy's just, it's really like matchup proof. Like he'll go into Yankee Stadium and dominate. He'll go into Fenway and dominate. He's just got a good head on his shoulders. It was kind of funny. I was talking with James last Saturday on the XM show about Yusei Kikuchi, and he had just had a bad outing, and I was frustrated airing my grievances. And then we had Rob Silver on the show, and he said, man, look a little deeper. Kikuchi has not been so bad. And the K's and walks do say he hasn't been so bad, but then he had another bad outing, and this one was at KC. Couldn't even make it out of the first inning. Really hard to know how to value this guy because, well, the K's and walks look good. That's not everything, and there's just something missing here with Yusei Kikuchi.
I wrote about him in the observations piece. He had an outstanding May. Now you say the walks have still been, even during his resurgence, the walks were high. They just had more strikeouts, and they were above average, but they may have been low for low. They were maybe low for Kikuchi, but they were still above average. And June just hasn't been kind to him. But as I said in the piece, I'm using June as a buy low. I still believe that he dumped his cutter for more sliders, something like that. There was tangible change. I don't love that. I don't love the New York mix, the New York matchup. But if I have Kikuchi, I'm probably starting him. I'm going to give him a 2. I don't know that I don't know if he's able to be picked up for this. Well, you know what? He's probably going to be dropped this week as opposed to being able to pick up. You know what I mean? Because he just had the bad outing, so he's probably not going to be.
He might be out there in some leagues.
He's going to be a drop this week, so it'll be next week that you'll be able to pick him up.
Yeah, I've been kind of a believer in Kikuchi, and it's burnt me more often than not. But Rob kind of talked me out of dropping him for the time being. We'll see if he's able to get on track. Then Josiah Gray and Steven Strasburg. Josiah Gray is kind of funny. I think maybe you were tweeting about how kind of crazy that he has 6 wins, but Strasburg got a rude awakening, rude welcome to the 2022 season.
Well, Strasburg settled down though.
Oh, did he? I thought he got blasted, but I guess I didn't watch it.
I thought maybe I'm wrong, but I thought he settled down a bit, and I think he lost it at the end.
He gave up 7 earned and 4 2/3.
All right, so I believe gave up early, and then actually was okay for the middle 3, and then just got. I may be wrong, and then just gave him up in the last inning. Didn't have the velocity. It's TOS. He's one guy that I'm not necessarily starting right away. I want to let him build up a little bit more velocity. All right, so this week, what does he have?
Versus Atlanta versus Philly. So that's kind of tough off.
I don't like losing a roster spot for the entire week, but I'm not starting him this week. But I don't want to give up on him just yet. So maybe if you have him in a DC, you don't start him. But I don't know that I'm dropping him. If you held on to him this long, you're probably not dropping him because that means you were able to hold on to him this long.
And Josiah Gray has been up and down. He has shown flashes, but wildly inconsistent. These matchups, so I'm only going to give Josiah Gray a 1.
Well, that's John Gray. I have him in the 0 range, but they're both at home. I think I'll give him a 1 as well.
Nice. Well, before we recap those grades that we just handed out, Gabe had a question in the chat. He had to put Tyler Stevenson on the IL, and he needs a hitter. So Josh Naylor's out there, Stephen Kwan, Lane Thomas, Juan Yepes, Lourdes Gurriel. I would just buy low on Gurriel. I'd go out and grab him. I kind of like Naylor too, but I think Gurriel's the best of that bunch. I'm
a track record guy, and I'm Gurriel all the way on this one.
I picked up Gurriel last weekend in Tout Wars for 15 out of 1,000, and he's my timing on that. My timing in life isn't always so good, but my timing on that was looking good because he's gotten hot suddenly this week, Lourdes Gurriel.
Yep.
All right, let's recap our grades for the week of June 13th, 2022. Merrill Kelly 4. Ian Anderson, I say 3. Todd 2. Kyle Bradish 0. Jordan Lyles 0. Nathan Evaldi, I say 4. Todd 5. Kyle Hendricks 0. Justin Steele 0. Mike Minor 0. Shane Bieber 3. Antonio Cenzatel 0. Johnny Cueto, I say 2. Todd 1. Alex Faedo 2. Eduardo Rodriguez 2. Christian Javier, I say 3. Todd 4. Brady Singer, I say 1. Todd 3. Noah Syndergaard 3. Sandy Alcantara 5. Adrian Hauser, I say 2. Todd 3. Chris Archer 1. David Peterson 3. Nestor Cortez 5. Jared Koenig 0. Aaron Nola 5. Zach Eflin 3. Mitch Keller 0. Blake Snell, I say 2, but Todd 0 on Blake Snell. Logan Gilbert 5. Chris Flexen, I say 1. Todd 3. Alex Wood, I say 4. Todd 5. Logan Webb 5. Miles Michaelis 3. Corey Kluber, I say 3. Todd 2. Taylor Hearn 0. Dane Dunning, I say 0. Todd 1. Alec Manoa 5. Yusei Kikuchi 2. Josiah Gray 1. Steven Strasburg 0. Great stuff. Really appreciate everybody in the chat coming through and interacting with us, and fun hanging out for this past hour. Anything else on your mind today, Todd?
If I'd known so many people in the chat, I would have put my fancy suit on. Yeah, no.
It's like a busy chat today. It's great.
It's all good on my end. They didn't come to look at me, but that's fine. It's again, we're off tomorrow from MLB Network Radio, so can't pimp that, but just enjoy the games and check out my new piece, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, really happy to have you taking on that observations column, and can't wait to read that. Again, thank you all for joining us. Hope you'll tune in either within the live stream or just through your normal channels with the podcast next week. Talk to you soon on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast.